friends, composer Tim Hink, back with an extra special episode following my journey to compose a piece of music called Orbits. And I'm really excited also to welcome 11 new followers this week, including Maria and Michelle. Thanks everybody for your really insightful comments. This is just so fun to see that there's some of you out there who enjoy talking about this as well. So thanks for following along. I think that today's conversation might spark a few extra comments and thoughts because my special guest and I will be discussing, among other things, some potential problems maybe that we see with classical music and some possible solutions. I am so happy to introduce my guest today, a longtime musical collaborator, colleague, and friend, concert master of the Wichita Symphony Orchestra, author of hugely insightful articles and blog posts about audience engagement and all things classical music, and the founder and executive director of Arts Capacity, a nonprofit that brings world-renowned musicians and composers into prisons across the country. The amazing and talented violinist, Holly Mulcahy.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Thanks for being here. You're here because I'm so excited to officially announce that Holly has agreed to be a soloist for this piece when it eventually gets its premiere.
Oh, likewise. I love working with you.
Thank you so much. It's going to be exciting. I don't know if you know this, Holly, but the main ideas for Orbits actually came from some conversations that we had. Now, this might be a little bit of a controversial topic, but we were talking about violin concertos, particularly about virtuosity in concertos, and about the problem of pieces that are written just to be as difficult as possible or to simply show off what the player is capable of. I wondered if we could talk just a little bit more about that here.
Absolutely. That is a can of worms, but it's something that, we've talked about because I feel very strongly about it. When there's a lot of technical virtuosity, sometimes the music gets lost. And even if you're nailing it and playing it very well, an audience will often say, that was so cool what you did. That looked like it was really hard. Instead of, that was so beautiful, or that was really compelling, or that was so inspiring.
Yes, this is kind of a controversial topic, and like you said, a little bit of a can of worms because so many of the concertos that are really most cherished by audience members are very difficult and virtuosic pieces. I think of Tchaikovsky and Brahms and Paganini concerto, and there's just so many really, really difficult but well-loved compositions. But I think the problem comes for a composer when each subsequent concerto that's written has to outdo the previous one, right? By difficulty, or the quality level is based simply on the virtuosity required to play it.
Exactly. I 100% agree. And I'm seeing that a lot. And while I think that's what art should do, it should cross over a line before you find what is actually comfortable and interesting and new, but not to the point of detriment for the music.
Being concerned about, what I call the sickness of composers needing to write anything. That's I feel it's kind of a sickness, and it's a detriment to us as composers. What about the audience? Like, is that helping their experience?
Sitting where I do, I can watch audiences. I watch their joy, and I watch their not so joyful reactions. A lot of composers tend to shy away from simplicity. Simplicity is really hard to get a really good, simple, beautiful tune. And make it unique.
I totally agree. It's so hard, and you always feel the pressure of, is this complex enough? As I'm writing this composition, Orbits, I'm really focusing on writing music that makes all of the instruments sound their best. And I'm wondering if you had any thoughts or advice for me.
Well, I think you already do what you should be doing, which is a very open communication with performers. A lot of times, no offense, pianists can tend to write very piano-y for violin, and it does not lay well. And what I really like about working with you is if I say this doesn't work in this key, you just go, okay, let's try it in this key. And there's no personal offense because we both want what's best for the audience.
So last week I shared an excerpt created by combining two very different sketches, and there was a little keyboard organ part at the very opening. These little tiny orbiting arpeggios. This week, as I started developing that a little bit more, it would be kind of interesting to have those little notes played by the high winds in a sort of aleatoric way. So they're given these little passages, but it's not in time. The bass The cellos and the double basses, they have a very slow arpeggio, and that's the big orbit. And then right in the middle, we have the orbit of the violin, the solo violin starting. Different sizes of simultaneous orbiting happening at the same time.
It allows the violin to soar. It's not just about the soloist, which I love.
How I'm balancing the soloist with the other instruments, I think this will be for chamber orchestra, so I think that the balance will be much more equitable than it is normally in a traditional concerto.
It's not just the violin doing its thing and everybody's accompanimental. Everybody's important in a unique kind of fashion. It'll sound impressive, like a Baroque.
Like a concerto grosso. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining me today. This is just, I mean, every time we have a conversation, it creates new music for me. It creates new ideas. And we will be talking very soon about Orbits together again.
Looking forward.
Thanks. We're going to have a bloopers roll.
I know.